my journey has been starting from head of electrical engineering department to becoming dean of faculty affairs to director of IIT, and then coming to this. So this has been a gradual transformation, looking first at the department level, then at the institute level, and then at the national level.
आपकी जीवन में साइंस एंड टेक कैसे आया?
My father has been a physics teacher, and there was always an environment at home. So when I went to do MTech, I think I was sort of greatly influenced by the depth and breadth of the faculty members who were there at that time in electrical engineering department at IIT Kanpur, which eventually then prompted me to pursue higher studies at IIT Kanpur only. Temperamentally also, I feel that I am not meant for someone who will settle abroad.
After PhD, you went to IIT Bombay and you spent nearly 3 decades there.
After PhD, I did not join IIT Bombay directly.
Okay.
I joined C-DAC Pune. So that actually gave me a sufficient exposure to hardware design, software designing, and hands-on learning, and actually developing a complex system. But I had always an interest in teaching and research, so I was always looking for a position in IIT Bombay.
So majorly आप IIT Bombay इसलिए गए क्योंकि आपको पढ़ाना पसंद था.
Correct, exactly. I was actually the first faculty member who was hired in electrical engineering department. Then I little bit switched from a very theoretical training to sort of more systems building and practical training.
From your perspective, from your lens, how things changed, like working at different levels to DST secretary?
Say different roles have given me different experiences, which helps here as the secretary to the government of India when you are making national level R&D programs or national level policies. I have been successful in operationalizing some of the most transformative initiatives of the government of India, that is Anusandhan National Research Foundation, ANRF, the National Quantum Mission, and the 1 lakh crore Research Development and Innovation Fund. Because these are the key transformative initiatives which are going to change the scientific and innovation landscape of the country.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Media. Today I am with Professor Abhay Karandikar sir. He is currently serving as Secretary in Department of Science and Technology. Swagat hai sir.
Namaskar.
So glad to sit in front of you. So before deep diving into DST, science and tech and its mission, I want to know about your journey. कि आपकी जीवन में science and tech कैसे आया? Like whenever I hosted some scientists, तो उनकी लाइफ में एक early moment of curiosity होता था. तो आपकी लाइफ में science and tech कैसे आया?
So let me just tell you about my journey. So I was born in Gwalior.
Okay.
So my father has been a physics teacher, and there was always an environment at home, with interest in science and engineering as well. And that really therefore prompted me to take a career in engineering. So I did my bachelor's in electronics engineering from MITS Gwalior. That was in 1986. And then I went to IIT Kanpur to do my master's, MTech and PhD. And when I went to IIT Kanpur for doing my MTech in communications, so that time the stream used to be called as Information and Control in IIT Kanpur, MTech program. So when I went to do MTech, I think I was sort of greatly influenced by the depth and breadth of the faculty members who were there at that time in electrical engineering department at IIT Kanpur, which eventually then prompted me to pursue higher studies at IIT Kanpur only. And then I did PhD with some focus on communications networks.
Okay, perfect. Sir, I was looking at your education and आपकी जो मोस्टली एजुकेशन हुई है इंडिया में हुई है, जबकि उस टाइम पे जो डिफ़ॉल्ट एम्बिशन होता था लोगों का कि बाहर जाना है, यूएस जाना है, तो वो कैसे हुआ इंडिया में रहने का डिसीजन?
सी इंडिया में जैसे मैंने बताया ना, रहने का डिसीजन ये हो कि जब मैं आईआईटी कानपुर में एमटेक करने के लिए गया इंफॉर्मेशन एंड कंट्रोल, आई रियली डेवलप्ड डीप इंटरेस्ट इन कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टम्स बिकॉज एज आई मेंशन both by the depth and breadth of faculty members such as Professor P.R.K. Rao, Professor V.P. Sinha, Professor P.K. Chatterjee, and so many other faculty members who were there. Then because of that interest in communications, after MTech I joined Space Application Center ISRO for 1 year.
Oh, nice.
From 88 to 89. But I sort of didn't quite like the work that I was given, and I thought maybe I need to explore in greater depth about communication systems in theory. And then 89 I returned back to IIT Kanpur, and I decided to then do my PhD under the supervision of Professor P.R.K. Rao. Now, why I thought I should work in IIT Kanpur, because at that point of time, I felt, yes, you are true that, so in IIT Kanpur, those who were doing MTech and PhD, there was one trend, those who wanted to pursue higher studies, they were going abroad, and then there was another section who were doing MTech, who were preparing for civil services. A large number of my MTech classmates were preparing for civil services and are now at senior positions in the government, including secretaries. But I thought, because Professor P.R.K. Rao's teaching so influenced so much that I thought I should spend some more time with him to learn from him, and that was the primary motivation for me to do PhD at IIT Kanpur, and I must say that I have no regrets for that. I really enjoyed my time at IIT Kanpur during both MTech and PhD days. Temperamentally also, I feel that I am not meant for someone who will settle abroad. So I think that is also one of the factors that played a role.
Right, sir. I think every decision takes to you a particular place, and I think it was in your destiny. And after PhD, you went to IIT Bombay, and you spent nearly 3 decades there, like from professor to you become a department head. Then वहाँ पे you worked on 5G, frugal broadband for rural network, and these systems. So I was wondering, your PhD was more on theoretical side, and then eventually shifted to product and applied research. So how did that transition happen?
Yeah. So actually, after PhD, I did not join IIT Bombay directly.
Okay.
I joined C-DAC Pune.
For a brief tenure.
Yes, for about 2 years. But that was actually the defining moment for getting an hands-on experience in developing systems. And although C-DAC that time was developing Param supercomputer, but in the supercomputer, the interconnect networks, the communication networks forms a very important part. And that interconnect networks was called ParamNet. So that actually gave me a sufficient exposure to hardware design, software designing, and hands-on learning, and actually developing a complex system. I worked very closely with the then executive director of C-DAC, Dr. Bhatkar. But I had always an interest in teaching and research, so I was always looking for a position in IIT Bombay. So when I got an offer from IIT Bombay, I told Dr. Bhatkar, and then he wasn't quite happy. He took me for a long walk in the Pune University campus, because C-DAC was at that point of time has its primary headquarters on the campus of Pune University. And then, he told me a lot of things that why I should be here in C-DAC and why, if you go to IIT Bombay, life will be difficult. That you will not get so many facilities to do research. IITs are struggling for funds and all those things. He said, here, you can practically do anything, you can lead. We have these plans. And but I listened to him, of course, but finally, my heart was definitely in teaching and research. So I then quit C-DAC and joined IIT Bombay. And however, since I had that experience in C-DAC of hands-on, I then experimented that in IIT Bombay. So my initial years of research was focused more on networking protocols, internet protocols, communications networks. IIT Bombay actually that time did not have any faculty member who were working in communication networks. I was actually the first faculty member who was hired in electrical engineering department. There were no faculty members who were working in communication networks either in the electrical engineering department or in computer science. But there were faculty members in IIT Kanpur even when I was a student. For example, Professor S.K. Bose, it was who introduced the communication networks in IIT Kanpur way before. But IIT Bombay, in that sense, was really lagging behind. It was I who introduced the first course in communication networks in IIT Bombay. Later on, several faculty members joined. For example, Professor Manjunath joined, who was also a faculty member in IIT Kanpur, and several other faculty members from IIT Kanpur then quit and joined both in electrical and computer science, like Bhaskar and Kameshwari and all these faculty members who were computer networks faculty member. So my initial focus was on internet and communication network, and also building stuff, building protocol stack, and there I think my C-DAC experience helped. And true, then I little bit switched from a very theoretical training to sort of more systems building and practical training. In fact, when I was doing PhD, people used to say, some of my colleagues used to say that for me, a packet in a network is a point on the Poisson line.
Okay.
So it was that, but that actually completely changed in IIT Bombay. And we then, went into developing complex systems and developing the full protocol stack. So initial years were focused on internet. I was not working on wireless mobile communication, so that is a different story. But my initial years were really focused on communications networks protocol. And I introduced the course on communication networks. I also sort of started floating topics in computer networks and subsequently follow-up courses also like advanced data networks, etc. Then I think I switched to wireless sort of later.
Okay, perfect. So majorly आप IIT Bombay इसलिए गए क्योंकि आपको पढ़ाना पसंद था.
Correct, exactly.
Right, and so you spent like more than like close to 3 decades there. So like your one of the most transformative years were at IIT Bombay. So any more stories from IIT Bombay?
नहीं, IIT Bombay में ये था कि जब हमने ये communication networks and all we decided, we stumbled upon some very, very interesting ideas. So another person actually in developing the system who had influenced was, Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala at IIT Madras and his group at Tenet. And we got to know more about his work when I was in C-DAC, because his group was working with C-DAC, and also there was a project which was sponsored by MITI also in Tenet. So when I visited, I found they are really doing some state-of-the-art work in developing technologies and products to address some specific problems of the country. And I think Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala has always a good story to tell, that what are the Indian requirements and how they can be technologically addressed. And that's how I think his group developed those, so he formed that company called Banyan Networks, which were developing very state-of-the-art networking equipments. Later on, they developed wireless in local loops and set up the company called Midas. So at that point of time, I think this clearly influenced my thinking in developing systems, much in the same way as Professor P.R.K. Rao has helped my grounding in fundamental communications theory, detection estimation theory, information theory, and also the love for teaching. The same thing, I think, was influenced to a large extent by Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala, although I did not work with him on, like as a, colleague in IIT Madras, but even at IIT Bombay. So at that point of time, we stumbled upon a few ideas, and then we thought that it will be good to spin off this as a startup. So 2001, 2002 was the time period when we founded a startup, Isodas Networks, along with some of my students. And the CEO, we teamed up with another IIT Bombay alumnus who was already having a hardware startup company, but he also wanted to scale and develop new products. So he joined hands. He also put in initial investments. And in Isodas Networks, we developed a very state-of-the-art QoS-enabled Metro Ethernet switch. And this was to address the problem of broadband access in the country, because we had that point of time the problem that fiber is not ubiquitous, and it is difficult to take fiber to each and every home, because then it was requiring a huge investment. I'm talking of year 2000
right.
time frame, and therefore how to reach broadband faster. So actually this product was addressing that, and we raised VC investment also. I took full 1 year leave also from IIT Bombay.
In early 2000?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we developed that full product. We did field trials with then Tata Communications, Tata Teleservices, and also with Reliance Infocom. That time the company used to be Reliance Infocom. And there was a good sort of attraction. But obviously, even after 3-4 years, we could not convert that technology into big business. And finally, we had to close down that company in 2006. Okay. And when we closed down, all my team joined Tejas Networks. Tejas Networks, actually, we sold off all the assets to Tejas Networks. Today, Tejas Networks is a big company. They are also in the wireless, etc. But at that point of time, when we analyzed, I found that one of the reasons for hesitancy, see, the product that we were making, the customers were only the telecom carriers like Tata Communication, Tata Teleservices. So there were only 5-6 customers. Okay, it was not like that this product can be sold to hundreds of customers. Only 5 only. So one of the things that I learned from interacting with the customers, that their major thing was that they were looking for this wireless boom to happen, and they were predicting. And therefore, there was a little hesitancy on betting on our product, which was a wired, which was not fiber optics, but which was solving the problem of combination of fiber and cable. But I think the carriers actually thought that they should wait, and they told us that, yeah, this is a good product, it is working. But at that point of time, I thought it is a sort of a good time to sort of switch to wireless networks, because that time cellular mobile communication was just coming. the country had deployed 2G networks and 3G evolution was happening. So I thought this may be like a good bet for me to switch to wireless networks. And also the research in internet protocols, etc., was saturating. So in 2007-2008 timeframe, I switched my area to internet protocols, communication networks to cellular mobile communication. So that switch sort of happened. And in that switch, another important factor was, at that time, these telecom service providers were given all these 2G, 3G licenses. So the Department of Telecom told these telecom service providers, that is Bharti Airtel, Tata Teleservices, Vodafone, and BSNL, and Aircel, I think that time, you should partner with academia and set up a center of excellence. So this was like a forced sort of a partnership which DOT enabled. But so each telecom service provider was given one institution. So Tata Teleservices with IIT Bombay, Airtel with IIT Delhi, Vodafone with IIT Kharagpur, BSNL with IIT Kanpur, and Aircel with IIT Madras. So I was given that responsibility to create that center in IIT Bombay. So it was Tata Teleservices, IIT Bombay Center of Excellence in Telecom, which came in 2009, where Tata Teleservices gave the money. See, today Tata Teleservices doesn't even exist, because they then, as you know, today now there are only two telecom service providers, that is Reliance Jio and Airtel. All others have more or less sort of vanished. But IIT Bombay was teamed up with Tata Teleservices. They funded the money. And then since I had also switched my area to cellular mobile communication, that came in at a right time. And then we started focusing on research in wireless mobile communications, 3G, 4G, and then of course later on 5G. I think so that was really, I should say, a shift that happened in my professional career.
So I was looking at a lot of things. So talking about that corporate exposure, I thought that you just have research exposure and admin flavor. But like for a short tenure, like you also did that corporate flavor.
Yeah, no, not short. I did that. I ran that company for 3 years.
3 years? Oh,
yes,
okay,
yes.
Nice.
And we had a VC investment of almost $1 million at that point of time in 2002, 2003.
When there were no VC funds.
Yes, there were no VC funds.
Wow. So how did admin flavor came into your life? Like you headed Department of Electrical Engineering IIT Bombay, then you came to IIT Kanpur. So tell us about that admin flavor.
Yeah, so, I always, when we set up this Tata Teleservices IIT Bombay Center for Excellence in Telecom, at that point of time, over the years, I think electrical engineering department was also growing. So at that point of time when I was requested to lead the department, there was a lot of opportunity to provide that leadership to the department to grow. Because when I had joined the electrical engineering department, as I had mentioned you, there was not even a course in communication networks, while there were courses in communication networks in IIT Kanpur much before that. So as you know that IIT Kanpur, when I was a student in IIT Kanpur was number 1. But IIT Bombay was not rated, that high. And truly so, electrical engineering department of IIT Kanpur was having outstanding faculty members. But IIT Bombay's electrical engineering department was growing, Now, of course, I should say that IIT Bombay's electrical engineering department is one of the best EE departments in the country. But so at that inflection point when I took the headship, it gave me an immense opportunity to contribute to the growth of the department in terms of faculty hiring. We hired many faculty members. In terms of growth in the number of students, PhD students, also the dual degree programs in undergraduate has started just both dual degree in communication and dual degree in microelectronics. And also that time, one IIT Bombay alumnus, Girish Gaitonde, had given the funding for which that GG building, Girish Gaitonde building had come up. So therefore, there was more space to expand. So this was like a good point to lead the department at the time of its growth. And whatever I could do in terms of contributing to the growth of the department, that did. And I learned during that 3 years many nuances of academic administration. Because when you are the head of a large department, you learn many things, because the head of the department is involved in recruitment, in faculty hiring, in running the academic programs. So you get that flavor, you get faculty hiring, you also interact with alumni, you raise the resources, and also, you help in building the infrastructure for the department. So of a smaller scale, not at the institute scale, you get the flavors of administrative nuances of leading a small institute, you can say, because electrical engineering department of IIT Bombay is like a small institute. Today it has 70 faculty members, right? Wow. It is like a college, It is the largest department in the institute, but otherwise size-wise also it has 70 faculty members. So it is if you look at DST's R&D institutes, we have, no institute has 70 scientists, So electrical engineering department therefore gives you, leading the electrical engineering department gives you the flavor of sufficient administrative experience. That then helped me later on to lead at an institute level, which is because of the director of IIT also is involved in faculty recruitment, of course, along with the head of the department, also involved in the academic matters, undergraduate, postgraduate programs, PhD programs, research. Director is also involved with alumni fundraising and also infrastructure of the entire institute. So that is done at a much larger scale, but this experience was extremely helpful, I should say. Yeah.
Great. And also, sir, when we look at your journey, like from being professor to department head, then leading IIT Kanpur, and now DST secretary. So, the population you are responsible for got multiplied and responsibilities got bigger. So, from your perspective, from your lens, how things changed, working at different levels to DST secretary?
Different roles have given me different experiences. For example, when I was the head of the electrical engineering department, it gave me an opportunity to, as I mentioned, faculty recruitment, mentoring of young faculty members, also improving the department infrastructures, connecting department with the industry at a smaller scale. So that gave me an opportunity. When I became the director of IIT Kanpur, it gave me an opportunity to make those changes at the institute level. So we introduced new departments. In my tenure, 4 new departments were initiated. Significant faculty hiring was done. Also, we introduced very innovative things like medical school. So in IIT Kanpur, we started Gangwal School of Medical Sciences and Technology. And with the growth, we needed a focus on infrastructure expansion also, both in terms of academic infrastructure and also residential, like faculty housing, hostels. And expansion and growth needs resources, so tapping the alumni funding, CSR, industry funding. So it gave me a full perspective of focusing on the academics, as well as focusing on outreach, infrastructure, and fundraising. And IIT, older IITs, which I'm talking IIT Bombay, Madras, Delhi, Kanpur, Kharagpur, and let's say Roorkee, Guwahati, those IITs have a much larger alumni base, have a significant number of faculty members, larger campus. IIT Kanpur campus is almost 1100 acre. So managing such a large campus, which is residential, gives a sufficient experience. Also, these old IITs are making the national impact, both in terms of research, technology development, and also the graduates which are graduating. Graduates are considered as the products of a university. So these graduates later on in turn make an impact. So this gives me a very varied experience, which helps here as the secretary to the government of India when you are making national level R&D programs or national level policies. So I think that is really, my journey has been starting from head of electrical engineering department to becoming dean of faculty affairs to director of IIT, and then coming to this. So this has been a gradual transformation, looking first at the department level, then at the institute level, and then at the national level. And at each level, I have learned both in terms of scientific leadership and also in terms of administrative nuances.
Perfect. And so, how this appointment came into the frame, talking about DST secretary, how this happened, and what were the things were in your mind? Okay, I will do this at this place.
ऐसा नहीं है. This, when I got, so when my term as the director IIT Kanpur was nearing, it has completed actually so I joined IIT Kanpur as a director in April 2018, and my term got completed in
2023?
April 2023.
Okay.
But the ministry asked me to continue till the new director is appointed. So that continued. And finally, in September 2023, I was still the director of IIT Kanpur. New director had not been appointed. So when I got this call of being the secretary, at that my first reaction was that I wasn't very keen to take over this position. I thought after my completion of term as IIT Kanpur director, I'll go back to IIT Bombay. So earlier I was a little hesitant, but then several factors were there. For example, shifting to Delhi, and also this is more, thick of the government. IITs do have certain autonomy and flexibility. But when I took up this, it has been an enjoyable experience, because in the last 2.5 to 3 years, I have been successful in operationalizing some of the most transformative initiatives of the Government of India. That is Anusandhan National Research Foundation, ANRF, National Quantum Mission, and the 1 lakh crore Research Development and Innovation Fund. So that way I should say that I feel satisfied and also enjoyed, because these are the key transformative initiatives which are going to change the scientific and innovation landscape of the country.
Right. And sir, for many people who don't have a lot of idea about DST, you mentioned 3 missions. So for them, what does DST exactly do, and how a day in your life looks like? You can tell us about that.
Department of Science and Technology is very well known to all the scientific community. Yes. So, earlier the DST has actually several mandates. One of them was to do programmatic R&D interventions, programmatic R&D funding through these programmatic interventions. So large number of extramural funding to our universities, academic institutions, research labs has been done by the Department of Science and Technology. And through its various programs, whether it is R&D infrastructure, whether it is theme-based or a sector-specific R&D. So that is one part. Second part is the government to government international collaboration. So DST is a nodal ministry for all bilateral and multilateral cooperations in science and technology. So that is sort of another mandate. Third is that, national level policies in science, technology and innovations. They are also sort of mandate of DST. And fourth is that DST also has been involved in inculcating the culture of innovations in our academic institutions, universities, and research labs by setting up technology business incubators, by supporting the startups in the technology and the deep tech areas. So that has been the broad mandate of the Department of Science and Technology.
So I think DST is one of the most important ministry this decade, and it is very important for the technological sovereignty of India. And talking about the spending on science, like we know that number, everyone knows that India spends 0.64% of GDP on science. But like now with RDI fund and lot of things, like what is the ground reality now, and how India is going to spend next decade on science and tech?
We see our absolute spending on R&D, that is gross expenditure on R&D, in the last 10 years has more than doubled, absolute terms. But as a percentage of GDP, it still looks low because our GDP has increased exponentially in the recent years.
Right.
So that's why, as a percentage, it is still, 0.6 or 0.7. But in absolute terms, gross expenditure on R&D has more than doubled. Now, one of the important factors here one should see is that in India, 65% of the expenditure on R&D is happening by the government and the public sector. Only 30 to 35% private sectors is doing. In developed countries, it is exactly the opposite. Private sector spends 70 to 80% on R&D, and government spends only 20%. So in India, the private sector or the industry is shying away from investing in the cutting edge R&D. And unless the private sector enhances its R&D funding, we are not going to enhance the gross expenditure on R&D in substantial terms as a percentage of the GDP. Now, to solve this, one important initiative which the government has recently taken is setting up of the 1 lakh crore Research Development and Innovation Fund. Since the private sector has been shying away from investing in R&D, since venture capitals are not investing in the deep tech startup to that extent, because many of the cutting edge deep tech project requires longer gestation period, and therefore there is a lot of uncertainty, and venture capital are not willing to take that kind of a risk and provide patient capital. To bridge this gap, the government took a very historic and bold initiative that it is the government which will mitigate the initial risk for providing a patient capital in the form of RDI, Research Development and Innovation Fund. And our hope is that this investment by the government of 1 lakh crore will crowd in maybe 5x or 10x private capital, and this will then create an environment of enhancing the spending by the private sector and the industries on R&D. So I think this is a very important step in that direction. In the next 5 years, when this fund is rolled out and it has crowded in more private capital, you will see that our gross expenditure on R&D has substantially enhanced. Similarly, setting up of the Anusandhan National Research Foundation is also a step in that direction to increase the R&D funding substantially. And several other missions which the government has launched. DST has launched National Quantum Mission, but there are other missions which our sister ministries have launched, like India Semiconductor Mission by MITI, or India AI missions, or green hydrogen missions, all of which have sort of R&D components. In the next 5 years, you will see that both the spend by the government and public sector on R&D has increased substantially, and also hopefully the private sector spend will also increase.
Okay, so government is coming on the front end, acting as a catalyst,
Yes.
so that we can bring in more private capital.
Yes, absolutely. So I think this is the right word, that government really wants to act as a catalyst.
Okay, and if it becomes successful, we can see 5 to 10x multiple of private capital in these sectors.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And sir, how fundamentally this RDI fund is different? Because when mostly people hear about government funding, they think it is some grant or that kind of thing. But I think it is fundamentally very different, and it is a patient capital which
Yeah.
is given to them as investment.
Yeah.
So if you can tell us about that.
So I think the RDI fund is structurally different because, first of all, I think it is not a grant. In fact, grant is explicitly prohibited. Secondly, this fund will be administered through second level fund managers, and these fund managers could be alternate investment funds, that is VC funds, or they could be focused research organizations like IIT research parks, etc., or they could be non-banking financial corporations, NBFCs, or they could be development financial institutions. So we will be contributing to these, and then these fund managers in turn will invest in the deep tech companies or R&D companies or industries, or including corporates. And the financial instrument that are there is a long-term loan with a very low interest rate, or equity financing. So this fund is also meant for spurring the innovation in our corporate sector and industry, not just in the startups. To corporates and industry, we can give a long-term loan, which is very low interest rate, and also which doesn't require much collaterals or personal guarantees of the promoters. So I think in that sense, structurally, this fund is different than, let us say the grant which ANRF R&D programs are doing, or which DST does through its various missions or R&D programs.
Right. So the focus is to turn research or any technology into a product.
Yes.
Through RDI fund. Right. So that is the whole target.
Yeah. So
of
the
this
idea. So I think R&D, the RDI fund is meant for financing projects which are at a TRL level 4 and above.
Okay.
And normally it is conceived that, the TRL 1 to 3, the basic research often gets funded by DST, Department of Biotechnology, or ANRF and other agencies. But TRL 4 to 6 is considered so-called like valley of death, where
valley.
you don't get the funding because investors are not willing to take the risks at that stage. So I think in that sense, this will really bridge the valley of death phenomenon and help achieve the R&D scale to a commercializable product.
Okay, great. And sir, जो इसका जो फंडिंग है वो शुरू हो चुका है, टॉकिंग अबाउट द
इसका
फंडिंग.
फंडिंग जैसे मैंने कहा ना कि है हम सेकंड लेवल फंड मैनेजर्स
Right.
के थ्रू फंड करेंगे. तो अभी वी आर इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ सिलेक्टिंग सेकंड लेवल फंड मैनेजर्स. लेकिन जो 2 फंड मैनेजर्स हैं, टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलपमेंट बोर्ड DST का और बायरैक DBT का, उनको हमने नॉमिनेशन बेसिस पर फंड मैनेजर्स अपॉइंट किया हुआ है, और उन दोनों ने काम करना शुरू कर दिया है. उन्होंने कॉल फॉर प्रपोजल्स भी किए थे. लॉट्स ऑफ एप्लीकेशंस, मोर देन 100 एप्लीकेशंस, बोथ TDB एंड बायरैक हैज रिसीव्ड फ्रॉम द स्टार्टअप्स. और उन्होंने TDB ने तो काफ़ी इवैल्यूएशन भी कर लिया है, और TDB हैज ऑलरेडी सिलेक्टेड 6 स्टार्टअप्स. सो the fund is sort of, I can say, is operationalized.
Right. And sir, what are the signals that you look for in a founder? You are not deploying the capital directly, but कि founder किस level तक ready होना चाहिए to get the investment?
नहीं, वो हमने जो implementation guidelines बनाई हुई हैं, they give the broad guidelines कि कौन से sectors होने चाहिए. 6 sunrise sectors हैं, TRL level 4 के above होना चाहिए, और जनरली प्रोजेक्ट्स जो हैं वो दे शुड बी बेस्ड ऑन एडवांसेस इन साइंस एंड इंजीनियरिंग, रूटीन R&D नहीं होनी चाहिए, एक्सेट्रा. तो वो हमारे इम्प्लीमेंटेशन गाइडलाइंस में है, जो कि हम चाहेंगे फंड मैनेजर्स उसको फॉलो करें. अदर देन दैट वी आर नॉट गेटिंग इनटू how to select a project, etc. That we have left it to the investment committee of each fund. So we are not getting involved. Government or DST or ANRF, we are not getting involved in choosing a specific company or a specific founder.
Right, perfect. So that's why you built ANRF, a totally different organization for that, apex body for that.
Yeah.
And so talking about, like, we have talked about a lot of commercializing of IPs, lot of technologies, and talking about the blue sky research and fundamental research. So how our academia is doing in terms of that?
No, I think Indian academia and university research has significantly grown in the recent years. We are doing, very good in terms of basic research. There are good work happening. The gap that exists in our R&D ecosystem is that we are not able to translate the research from the basic research into prototypes or technology development. So there is a big gap of translational research, and that gap needs to be plugged. Second thing is that some research requires sophisticated infrastructure if we want to do large experimentations, etc. So we need to enhance the funding. Of course, ANRF was meant for that. So I should say that there is a good capacity in our academic institutions and universities, specifically in premier academic institutions, that is getting enhanced, and initiatives like ANRF, Quantum Mission, Cyber Physical Mission, AI Mission, etc. Are actually help achieve that also in few specific national priority sectors.
And so that gap is because of collaboration, because a lot of people say that in India people work in silos, talking about academia, industry.
So that gap, that is the reason, for example, Quantum Mission really tries to break that gap, those silos, because in Quantum Missions, we had this concept of creating 4 hubs and then several technical groups. And these, investigators, principal investigators, are supposed to work in a collaborative fashion to achieve the objectives of the National Quantum Mission. So we are trying to achieve that through the mission mode programs, and also ANRF, when they have this Maha program, through that Maha program also, they have initiated the collaborative projects actually.
And talking about that quantum mission, I think we recently achieved a major breakthrough in that, and 1,000-kilometer quantum communication. If you can briefly talk about that.
I think so in the National Quantum Mission, we have 4 hubs: quantum computing at IISc, quantum communications at IIT Madras, quantum sensing and metrology at IIT Bombay, and quantum materials and devices at IIT Delhi. And other than that, we have funded some startups also. So this particular 1,000-kilometer link has been demonstrated by one of the startups, QNU Lab, which is a Bangalore-based Deeptech startups, that has been supported and funded by the National Quantum Mission. Of course, they have also raised money from other investors. So that has developed the technology and demonstrated the 1,000-kilometer link in almost in 2 years, when the NQM was launched and when we funded them. In fact, our objective was to develop the 2,000-kilometer link in 5 years, but that half of that has been achieved very soon. This is a very significant achievement because that puts India on the global map of secure quantum communication. There are, only a few countries which can be considered as leaders. And in secure quantum communications, we can really become globally competitive.
So we can really have edge in quantum communications.
Yeah.
But we are lacking behind in quantum computation, or what are we doing?
No, we are, of course, we are lagging behind in quantum computing because, global companies such as IBM, etc., have invested significantly billions of dollars. Our journey began just, a year and a half ago. But we are developing both superconducting qubits, photonics, neutral atoms, etc. But there also, I think, there is a startup, QPII, which National Quantum Mission has funded. they are also on a good track of developing quantum computer. So I think I should say that while we have a good chance to become globally competitive in secure quantum communication or in quantum sensing, but we can develop reasonable capacity in quantum computing so that we can become technologically sovereign. So I should say that we are on the right track of building a good research and technology development capacity in the country.
And sir, talking about the overall scenario, like where India stands today, like if you talk about India, people often say that India is one of the biggest market. People see us as consumers of a lot of things. So where India stands today in terms of building our own models, LLMs, and scientific capacity?
Maybe, of course, India is one of the big market because, because of sheer size and scale
Right.
of the population. But that is also adds to our advantage in terms of deploying the technology at population scale. Now, obviously, we are not technologically sovereign in many of the areas. But as I mentioned, our thrust through these missions, RDI Fund, ANRF, promoting startups, and also the talent that exists in the country, and lot of good talent is now founding Deeptech startups. There are so many good startups, that I have seen in the recent years, which have the fire and passion to develop the cutting edge technologies. I think we should be in a good shape in the next 2 to 3 years to develop globally competitive technologies and products. And those products we will be able to deploy at population scale in our country. And these, startups can get a homegrown market here, which is of a large size. So I think that advantage also we do have. So yes, it is true that we were considered as an emerging market, a few years ago, and maybe in some areas we are still a market, but that also gives us an opportunity. And I'm really happy to see that because of the enabling framework given by the government and lot of youth and talent that exists in the country, we are now creating a momentum that will help us to go from the being an emerging market to a frontline technology player.
Perfect. So like many people often say that India is a follower of Western technology, which I feel is not true. Like we have seen with our atomic missions, ISRO, and lot of things. And in the last 1 year, I have seen a lot of startups doing great. Servam, which is building models, General Atomic building humanoid. So what should be our strategy? Like we should be local champion first.
See, first of all, we are not follower of Western technologies. There are some specific Indian requirements. So therefore, technologies needs to be developed to solve our problems, to solve the problems of our society and to suit the requirements. But at the same time, we need to develop the technologies which are globally competitive. And once, they have deployed here at a population scale, I'm sure these products will also find market globally as well. Because some of the problems, are obviously common. It is not just specific to India. But some problems may need, tweaking, and sometimes, priorities may be different. Some issues needs to be addressed specifically in the Indian context. So I think that is the only difference. But otherwise, once, the technology or a product is developed, it in that sense, it has a universal appeal and a universal market.
So there is a famous saying for India that whatever you can rightly say of India, opposite is also true. Like we are such a diverse country, so I think we should focus on our own problems in a different sense, which is happening right now.
No. So certainly, I think we need to focus on the problems which are unique to our country and which helps address our problems. So that part is obviously there, because ultimately science and technology should be for the society, right? So a connect of science and technology with the society is obviously needed. But what I'm trying to say is that once you develop a technology that has a universal appeal, and therefore it will not be just restricted to getting deployed in India only. If it is a good technology, I'm sure it will be able to address, if it can address the problems of our country, I'm sure it will find market at other places as well.
Like make in India for the world.
Yes.
Sir, what is your vision, like where India should be next 10 years or 100 years of independence? If you can directly speak to the generation who is going to build Viksit Bharat, if you can talk to them.
Yeah. So I think, we have a huge opportunity in the country. We are on the right track. And our country, under the visionary leadership of our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has really created an enabling framework for giving an opportunity to our young innovators to become job creators rather than job seekers. So all these initiatives which I mentioned, whether it is ANRF or whether it is RDI or whether other startup promotion schemes are actually providing huge opportunities for our tremendous talent that we have in science and technology. And it will be my urge I will urge all our young students and innovators to make use of this opportunity and create an ecosystem for the country, which will make our country a developed economy, a strong world power, and also prosperity and inclusive growth for all of us. So next 10-15 years are going to be very critical because the last 5 years really laid the foundation for creating an enabling frameworks through many initiatives, programs, policies. And now this gives an opportunity to our talent to build on this foundation and create a vibrant ecosystem which leads our country to a developed nation.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Really had a great time and so much learned from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Okay, thank you.